Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yamuna Thira Vanachari Yamuna Thira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yamuna Thira Vanachari Yamuna Thira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yamuna Thira Vanachari Yamuna Thira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Vijay Gauranga, Dayal Nitai, Vijay Gauranga, Dayal Nitai, Jaya Vijay Gauranga, Dayal Nitai, Vijay Gauranga, Dayal Nitai, Jai Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Shri Shri Vijay Gauranga Dayal Nitai ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Pramananda Hari.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming today. Yes, and traditionally, we are starting with reading the Transcendental Diary, telling us the sweet stories of Prabhupada's pastimes in this world. Sometimes devotees think that, well, Prabhupada was here not so long ago, and I might have been, somehow or other, I should have been born while Prabhupada was still present here. But at the same time, if you listen to the stories that devotees tell about Prabhupada, his disciples, especially those who were close to him, you have to understand that it meant really almost complete surrender, and in many cases complete surrender. Like for instance, those devotees who went to London to open the first temple there. It's just like, I don't know, can you imagine now someone like, I don't know, Rishi Kumar telling you, okay, go to Leverkusen, or I don't know, go to some other place, Aachen, and open a temple there, and don't come back without opening a temple. Yes, and you have you are newlywed and you have a small baby. Like for instance, Shyamasundara Prabhu and Mataji Malati, they had a small baby. Saraswati, I think her name was, or is. And they lived in very, very austere conditions. And anyway, somehow or other, by Krishna's mercy, they managed to open a temple there. Shri Shri Vijay Gauranga Deonta Ki Jai. I recently heard the story about how they opened this first temple, just a small thing from there. How Shyamasundara Prabhu managed to get to George Harrison. It was a very interesting thing. Actually, George Harrison by that time already was in the search of spiritual knowledge, and he heard something about Krishna consciousness, but devotees, what they tried to do at the time, what they were trying to do, they started sending some, I don't know, some apples, I don't know, some apple toys with Hare Krishna written on them, something like that, sending to this Apple studio. Why Apple? Because it was an Apple studio. Beatles studio was called Apple. And some posters, I don't remember exactly, but they were sending some signals like Hare Krishna, and and we want to get in contact with you. But somehow or other, all these things were not getting through. But then one time, Shyamasundara Prabhu, he was near this Apple studio, and he was trying to find a way to get in. And there was this car coming in. I don't remember if there was John Lennon there, but I guess it was his wife maybe. And Shyamasundara Prabhu, and there was this gate. You know, the gate opens, the car is let in, and there was some security guard, and Shyamasundara Prabhu couldn't get in, because he was tall and just walking, he couldn't do that. So he leaned towards the car and he started speaking. I guess it was the wife of John Lennon, and he started speaking to her, and like that, the car was pretty high, maybe it was some Rolls Royce, I don't know, and he was, in a semi-bound position, and he was walking with the car, and the security guard couldn't see him. This is why he got in on the territory of this Apple studio. This is how it was made. It's like, some action movie. This is what the devotees were, really ready to do. Can you imagine yourself doing that? I don't know. It's actually very challenging. But devotees were ready to do anything, and they were like new devotees, a couple of years in Krishna consciousness. So, and he got in and he managed to get to George Harrison, and the first words of George Harrison were, maybe someone remembers, "Where have you been for so long? I've been looking for you." Can you imagine that? So it was Krishna's arrangements, really. Okay, now this paragraph from Transcendental Diary. Just after taking rest at about 11 p.m., I heard I heard the buzzer ring. Rolling out of my sleeping bag, I went into Srila Prabhupada's darshana room, where he was already sitting at his desk, microphone in hand, peering over the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. After offering my obeisances, I sat before him, eager to know the purpose for his call. Prabhupada looked at me over his glasses and, indicating something in midair, said, "There is some noise disturbing. Just stop it." That's it. That's the end of the paragraph. Such an intriguing start, But there were many cases like that. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada, even he was in a very bad condition. He was sick, and he could hear some ventilator in another room, or some drops of water, somewhere. So like that. He was very sensitive to sounds, and oftentimes also he said to his disciples, "You're always, just bumping the door. You're closing the door like this, and you don't care." But for Srila Prabhupada, it was like always a disturbance. He was very sensitive to all this. And one more thing, also in these recounts of his devotees, of his disciples, they said that his schedule was very strict. In this particular case, maybe it was some special occasion, but they said that he usually used to go to bed at 10. At least this was his schedule at a certain point, at a certain period. He used to go to bed at 10 p.m. and he would get up by 1:30 in the morning. By the way, in Ukrainian and Russian languages we say at night, but in English it's in the morning. I don't know about German. 1:30 in the morning. So it's like, actually in English it's more sattvic. Morning starts really early. Because in Ukrainian and Russian we say 3 at night, 3 a.m. at night. We still, maybe 4 it's already like morning. But in English it's 1 already, 1 in the morning, they say. Is it in German also like that? Night, yeah. So, okay. He would get up by 1:30 and he would start translating his books. That was his schedule. Of course, he also, to maintain his health, he also dedicated a lot of time to massages, which really helped him. He said it's really like prolonging my life. But anyway, that was his schedule. So now, Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So, we are reading Canto 5, Chapter 8, that is called The Character of Bharata Maharaja, and our today's verse is number 14, so it's 5, 8, 14. And first I will read the Sanskrit. It's again plain text, so I will just read it. Kriyayam nirvartya manayam antarale pyutha yothaya yadainam abhichakshita tarhivava savarshapati prakritistena manasa tasma ashisha ashaste svastistad vatsate sarvata iti. And now we can repeat the word for word translation. Kriyayam. Kriyayam. The activities of worshipping the Lord. Or performing ritualistic ceremonies. Nirvartyam manayam. Even without finishing. Antarale. At intervals in the middle. Api. Although. Uthaya. Repeatedly getting up. Yada. When. Enam. The deer calf. Abhichakshita. Would see. Tarhivava. At that time. Sa. He. Varshapati. Maharaja Bharata. Prakriti Sthena. Happy. Manasa. Within his mind. Tasmai. Until it. Ashisha ashaste. Bestows benedictions. Svasti. All auspiciousness. Stat. Let there be. Vatsa.
Vatsa,
O my dear calf,
O my dear calf,
te,
te,
unto you,
unto you,
sarvata,
Sarvata,
in all respects,
in all respects,
iti,
iti,
thus.
thus.
Translation. When Maharaja Bharata was actually worshipping the Lord or was engaged in some ritualistic ceremony, although his activities were unfinished, he would still, at intervals, get up and see where the deer was. In this way, he would look for it, and when he could see that the deer was comfortably situated, his mind and heart would be very satisfied, and he would bestow his blessings upon the deer, saying, "My dear calf, may you be happy in all respects." Purport by His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Because his attraction for the deer was so intense, Bharata Maharaja could not concentrate upon worshipping the Lord or performing his ritualistic ceremonies. Even though he was engaged in worshipping the deity, his mind was restless due to his inordinate affection. While trying to meditate, he would simply think of the deer, wondering where it had gone. In other words, if one's mind is distracted from worship, a mere show of worship will not be of any benefit. The fact that Bharata Maharaja had to get up at intervals to look for the deer was simply a sign that he had fallen down from the spiritual platform. So this is the purport, and again, very quickly, the translation. When Maharaja Bharata was actually worshipping the Lord or was engaged in some ritualistic ceremony, although his activities were unfinished, he would still, at intervals, get up and see where the deer was. In this way, he would look for it, and when he could see that the deer was comfortably situated, his mind and heart would be very satisfied, and he would bestow his blessings upon the deer, saying, "My dear calf, may you be happy in all respects." The first thing that came to my mind when I read this verse, believe it or not, was my phone. That's my deer. Deer. Yeah. Actually, especially when I got this Apple device, I don't know how they make it so attractive, but maybe it's because of the user interface and user experience or whatever. But you get even more attached to your phone than to some usual Android phone. So be careful. So, yeah. Actually, this is our deer. I don't know, at least my deer is like this. When I chant my japa or something, instead of being concentrated on my japa, I think, oh, maybe someone sent me a message. Okay, I should check. I should check my phone. And I think it's the situation of many of us now. We are constantly getting distracted by many things, but especially our phones. And yeah, so this is the point that I wanted to mention. At least I am really distracted by the phone, and I have to admit that. And once I even was asked at our Kiev community several years ago, I was asked to give not a lecture, like a talk. It was a retreat of our Namahara leaders, from all over Ukraine. And I was asked to speak about digital security and things like that. And one of my points was that we need to find some blocking time for our sadhana, and especially grihastas, and especially for their japa. Like every morning, usually is Rishi Kumar Prabhu who says japa zeit. Yeah, japa zeit. So it's japa zeit, and you shouldn't check your phone. I'm speaking to myself now. So, but anyway, somehow or other, even after speaking about this extensively several years ago, I still struggle with that, and I can't block my time for my japa properly. Sometimes it happens, very rarely, fortunately, but at the same time also, as it is mentioned in this verse, when Maharaja Bharata could see that the deer was comfortably situated, his mind and heart would be very satisfied. So when I don't see my phone around, I think maybe I've I have forgotten it somewhere, and my mind is not peaceful, or maybe the battery is getting low. I have to charge it. So things like that. It's very similar, at least in my case. I don't know. So, yeah, some short introduction from real life experience, so to say. Yeah, and here I would like to mention one of the topics that devotees often cannot see this and do not see this, how they maintain their material attachments, or some new material attachments may appear, which is even more dangerous maybe. Because when you're practicing, when you've been practicing for some time already, again, it was mentioned in the previous talks, in the previous days, because this is the same topic, we may think that we are already quite well established. Maybe, of course, we don't think that we are very elevated devotees. No, we don't think like that. But at the same time, we are quite well established. The principles are okay. And if we have some small material attachments, after all, we are not fanatics, why not? A little bit, just a little bit. So it helps me also to keep my mind settled and not very disturbed. All these small attachments, like, I don't know, maybe from time to time I can watch some football, especially when my team or my country or my city or whatever plays, or something like this, I don't know. So it's not a big disturbance. At the same time, it could lead to some bigger attachments. And as here, many times, many times, I checked it in this Vani quote, on this Vani quote website, Prabhupada mentioned the example of Bharata Maharaja getting attached to the deer. And we may get attached to whatever also in our lives, and especially, again, hopefully it will not be some iPhone or some other device that will be invented some years ahead. But even you can still remember, I think many of you have this experience, that you can still remember some stupid songs from your childhood or younger years, or some advertisements. Advertisements, they go really very deep. Still, when sometimes, in the 90s, especially when we were kids, I was a small kid in the 80s, and we didn't have any advertising in the Soviet Union. It was like unheard of. Advertising, what is that? You have, a brown jacket and a gray jacket, and that's it. You can choose between two options. And if someone has some connections abroad, they can bring some, I don't know, very nice branded clothes from Yugoslavia, and that's top of the pops. So we didn't have many distractions. That was kind of an advantage of the Soviet era, and everything around you was really like brownish or grayish or something like that. But in the 90s, it was bubble gum, chewing gum, all these bright colors, Coca-Cola, everything. No, Coca-Cola was there maybe also in the 80s. I don't remember exactly, but anyway. So what I mean to say that a lot of advertisements appeared and a lot of slogans. Like you say one word and there is, thanks God I don't remember any of them right now. But sometimes you hear some word and some slogan pops up in your head. Still, after so many years of not watching TV. My TV broke when I was, I don't remember my age, but it was maybe 1998 or something like that. My TV broke, and we were, at the time, we were not very rich, so to say the least. And we didn't have money to buy a new TV, so that was the time when I stopped watching TV. And up until the time of YouTube, I almost didn't watch anything. I mean, of course, I watched some documentaries later on my computer and everything, but anyway, I didn't watch TV like sitting in front of the TV and watching it. But still, So, and imagine one devotee, he even told a story like that. He was drowning, and some slogan from and he saw bubbles, some bubbles, coming. You're drowning and bubbles are coming in front of your eyes, and he remembered some washing powder advertisement, some tu and some melody from this washing. Imagine you're dying, you're drowning, and he's a devotee who wants to remember about Krishna, but you remember some stupid ad from TV, So it's very dangerous. And these things they just go into our mind, especially if they're repetitive. You hear these advertisements every day, if you watch TV a lot. So this is how it works. What to speak of real attachments, like here with the deer, So, and one of these dangers is also, like often mentioned by many devotees who give talks on this topic, is that actually there was nothing bad, in helping the deer. It's like a good activity. Why not? You should help other living creatures, yes? The only thing that it may lead to such attachment in the future. And you may not notice that, especially if you don't have your devotee friends around, especially maybe some brahmachari-minded devotees who will say, oh, this is all Maya, you should drop it. Everything is just, you don't need that. Because for grihastas, it's much more difficult. It's not that they don't understand the philosophy. They understand the philosophy to a certain degree, but if you have your family already, like your wife and your kids, and you read somewhere in the Shastra that your wife and your kids are just, nonsense and everything like this, you may think, oh my God, why do I need my wife and kids then? But no, Srila Prabhupada, even recently I heard one story, one Mataji told about her husband. They were like a newlywed couple in the times of Srila Prabhupada. And this Upendra, I think, Upendra Prabhu was the name of this devotee. He wanted to travel with Srila Prabhupada, and he didn't want to take care of his wife and child. But Srila Prabhupada constantly told him, where is your wife? You should take care of your wife. So dharma is very important, especially if your wife and children are devotees. So it's extremely important. So as a grihasta, what I mean to say, you have to be really very wise to a large degree. But at the same time, there is this risk of falling into some kind of, just material affection, material attachments. So there has to be definitely some balance, very strong balance. And this balance is not possible without the guidance of your seniors, of your spiritual master, of other devotees, your friends even, who can tell you when you may fall down. But here, Maharaja Bharata, he was alone in the forest. And this is very dangerous. No one sees you, no one can tell you that you're already maybe deviating a little bit. Also, one thing that I would like to mention here and tell you about one more very interesting story. It's kind of interconnected, at least I can see the connection. It's about how devotees sometimes think that philosophy is not important and we should just follow our heart. Or maybe we should just read some philosophy at the beginning just to get established, just to follow the regulative principles. And after this, when you already are in the society of devotees, when you already are following the principles, you are doing some service, you are chanting, you are happy, philosophy is maybe not so necessary, You just read philosophy just to stay with devotees, and that's it. You don't get very deep, because it's not that important after all. Why should I become some kind of a jnani? After all, it's jnana. We don't need that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he only chanted and everything. So this is I would say, an extremely dangerous position, especially if it's promoted, like that. Because these things like follow your heart, just follow your heart and things like that, in the future, I guess this is, of course, along with some regulative principles violations, this will lead to deviations, and this will come to the point where after 10,000 years, our movement will be stopped to a certain degree, of course. And Kali Yuga will again regain its power, its full power. But for 10,000 years, we should develop. We should somehow rather try to maintain the mission as our acharyas did. So this follow your heart. This is what led to the appearance of so many apasampradayas. And actually, I think you heard it many times maybe, that in the 19th century when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura started his preaching, Vaishnavism was considered like a bad word, Vaishnavas, these were like you see some homeless people here, yes, it's like with some, I don't know, ladies, whatever, they are smoking, drinking, doing whatever they do. And they call themselves Vaishnavas and spiritual people. Imagine like that. Yes, this is what was happening in the 19th century. So many people were doing that. And Shastra is really very important. And one instance, it may be surprising for you. Maybe you will have some revelations here. Oh yeah, sorry. Before coming to this point, I would also like to quote from Shubhrupada, where he writes in the Nectar of Devotion, chapter 7. He writes there, the scripture known as Brahmayamala states as follows: if someone wants to pose himself as a great devotee without following the authorities of the revealed scriptures, then his activities will never help him to make progress in devotional service. You see? Instead, he will simply create disturbances for the sincere students of devotional service. Again, this is this quote from Brahmayamala. If someone wants to pose himself as a great devotee without following the authorities of the revealed scriptures, then his activities will never help him to make progress in devotional service. Instead, he will simply create disturbances for the sincere students of devotional service. Srila Prabhupada continues, those who do not strictly follow the principles of revealed scriptures are generally called sahajiyas. Those who have imagined everything to be cheap, who have their own concocted ideas, and who do not follow the scriptural injunctions. Such persons are simply creating disturbances in the discharge of devotional service. Heavy statements here. Heavy statements. And now the story that I wanted to mention. It's not an invented story. It's not my real life experience. It's from our beloved Ramayana. Who has heard a story about Shabari, old lady Shabari? So it's not very popular here. Yeah? Shabari story? No? How? Maybe you heard something like there was a devotee, it was an old lady, she was an ascetic, and she gave Lord Rama some fruit. There are some variations, berries, fruit, whatever. Some fruit which she previously had tasted herself. So she tried the fruit, and then if this particular fruit was sweet enough, she gave it to the Lord. Like beautiful fruit with her own saliva, gave it to the Lord. No? Doesn't sound beautiful to you? So, you heard this story like that, yes? That she tried first? No, you haven't heard. You're lucky. Now you will hear the real version, Shastric version. So, she like, so many, even unfortunately, some of our senior devotees, they tell this story because they heard it like that. It's not that it's their fault, but they just heard it like that. So she tasted this fruit and then gave it to the Lord. Maha. Her own Maha to the Lord. So, but we have one very, very Shastric devotee in our community. His name is Brijabasi Prabhu. I several times maybe already mentioned him. He was part of this Shastric Advisory Committee. And even at a certain point, he was asked to be the head of this committee, but for various reasons, he rejected this offer. But anyway, I mean, he's really expert. Bengali, Sanskrit, the history of Vaishnavism, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's a legacy, whatever. He knows. You ask him, where can I find this quote? And he will tell you, okay, I think it's there, there, and there. And then in a few minutes, he will give you the quotes. You know, he is like extremely expert in the Shastra. So he said that he wrote an extensive article about this Shabari, this Shabari devotee. And he made a huge research on this topic, because he said that he always was he felt uncomfortable when he heard this story like that she tried the fruit or berries and then gave the same fruit to the Lord. So he made a huge research on that topic, and he said that he researched four main versions of Padma Purana, where some devotees claim there is this verse about tasting the fruit, and he says it doesn't actually say like that in the Sanskrit version. It doesn't say that she, bit the fruit and then gave the same fruit to the Lord. It just says that she tried various kinds of fruit, even not one kind of fruit, and she tried if they were okay, and then she offered these that were okay to the Lord, which actually means, because she's also called the expert in dharma. She was called an expert in dharma, so she couldn't do like that, offer some fruit with her own saliva to the Lord. She came from Shabari. Her name is Shabari. She came from this Shabara race, which was actually a non-Vedic, non-Varnashama race. Some call it Siberia. This was like Siberia, maybe, Shabaras. But anyway, she was, at that time, she was already an ascetic for many, many, many years. And she was a disciple of Matanga Rishi, who already had gone to higher worlds with his disciples, and only she stayed, out of all his disciples, only she stayed to meet Lord Rama sometime in the future. And now this moment comes, she meets Lord Rama, and she was expert in Dharma. She couldn't have done like that. And actually what it means that she tried various fruits from various trees. Right? Like, for example, you want some best fruit for some devotees or for your Guru Maharaja, yes? You try some fruit on various trees, and you find the best, but you don't take the same berry that you tried, yes? You take the berries from that tree and you offer them to the Lord. That's how you do it. You don't offer those berries, those, peaches or pears or apples that you yourself bit, It's just, can you imagine this? And say, oh, it's Raga, Guru Maharaj, I love you so much. Please taste it, this is my love. This is the expression of my love, my saliva. So, like that. So, I'm just trying to be a little bit emotional here, but actually this Brijabasi Prabhu, he gave Shastric evidence that it was not like that. And also, Shri Shri Vijay Gauranga Dayamnita Ki Jai. And he also says that, also our acharyas, one of them, I think he's maybe not from Gaudiya Sampradaya, but anyway, he is a very authoritative acharya in Vaishnava line, Govinda Raja. In his comment, he also says that it was like that she took the best fruit and berries from the forest, and she just gathered them. She just gathered the best. And he never says that she tried the exact fruits and then gave it to the Lord. And other Vaishnava acharyas, they don't say like that. But where did this version that comes from the heart of those who want some closer relationship with the Lord, you want some closer relationship that comes from your heart, you want to try the fruit and give it to the Lord because it's your bhakti, So where did this version come from? And Brijabasi Prabhu in his article writes that first it appeared in the works of Atibadi. Have you heard about Atibadi? Atibadi is one of these Apasampradayas mentioned by Bhaktivinoda Thakura in the list. I think he mentioned 12 or 13 Apasampradayas, and it's one of the most prominent, Atibadi sect. And there they directly write about these bitten fruit, you know, that Shabari bit the fruit. They have some kind of, they have their Dandi Ramayana, it's called. It was compiled by Balarama Dasa in Oriya language, it's in Orissa, in the 16th century. And a lot of scholars on this topic, they say that actually this Dandi Ramayana and this Balaram Das is very different from real Ramayana. And they say that a lot of stories from this Ramayana, they were just invented by this Balaram Das. And this Atibadi, they are very prominent. They pose themselves as Vaishnavas. But actually, scholars also analyzed this Atibadi Sampradaya, and they say that Atibadis, they are actually Buddhists, hidden Buddhists. Yes. And they have even their, the same Balaram Das, they also wrote Shunya Samhita. Shunya is Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. We are fighting against that. Prabhupada fought against that. So Shunyavada, this is emptiness. Shunya is emptiness. So, no, sorry, it was another, not Balaram Das, but Achyutananda Das. There were 5 prominent Atibadis, they have 5 prominent acharyas, like Balaram Das, Achyutananda Das. And this Achyutananda, he says that actually the Lord is Shunya Purusha. It's like empty personality, you know, like that. So, and this is what they say, but they pose themselves as Vaishnavas, and they write Vaishnava poetry and literature. And simple people, they do not distinguish this, because, you know, it's coming from the heart, they think, you know. So, and the founder of this Atibadi sect was Jagannath Das, who they say that he said to Lord Chaitanya, because they were contemporaries and they met, he said that this Jagannath Das, he said that to Lord Chaitanya, that, oh Lord Chaitanya, you appeared from the smile of Lord Krishna, but from the smile of Lord Krishna appeared myself, Jagannath Das. Can you imagine this? That he said that to Lord Chaitanya, such level of humility, you see. So, and many researchers of all these Sahajiya cults, all these deviations and everything, they expose this fact that actually these Atibadis, they are Buddhists. And even Achyutananda, he said that he writes somewhere in his works that actually in Kali Yuga, Buddhists should not show that they are Buddhists. They have to be hidden somewhere. So we should be careful. Maybe there are some hidden Buddhists in the Krishna consciousness movement. We never know. Okay. Yeah, he actually writes, Kali Yuga Baudha Rupe Nija Rupa Gopai. So for Buddhists, it's better to be hidden in Kali Yuga, which is very dangerous for true Vaishnavas. So actually, Vajrayana, this is called Vajrayana Buddhism. It was very widespread in Bengal at the time, and this was the reason why so many sects appeared, actually. So it's a mixture of Mayavad, Shunyavad, Buddhism, and everything. And when this adds to Vaishnavism, then all these sects appear. And this story is very popular in their sect about Lord Rama trying the fruit. So in this Dandi Ramayana, it is explicitly and clearly written that when this Shabari, which she was gathering the fruit, she was biting and tasting every fruit, and only those, this is what they write in their Dandi Ramayana, that she gave to Lord Rama those bitten fruit, and also some fruit that were not bitten. So, and Lord Rama told her, oh, I don't want these unbitten fruit. I want only these bitten fruit by you. You know, don't offer it to me the fruit that you haven't tried. This is Dandi Ramayana. And can you imagine, like, simple people, Bengal, no Shastra, coming from the heart, they listen to this and they accept this. So this is how this story somehow rather it became really widespread. Also, in the modern times, it was confirmed by the TV Shastra. There was a TV series, Ramayana, and there, of course, it showed the hardcore version, coming from the hard version of saliva fruit. So, and of course, all people believe that. If you see that on TV, that's Pramana, the greatest Pramana. So, yes, and they say also, researchers say that it also coincided, this version of the fruit bitten by Shabari, tried by Shabari before offering to the Lord, it also coincided with the movement of the Indian society against Brahmanism, against the old traditions and everything like that. They wanted to be closer to the Lord, not to follow all these rules and regulations. They wanted to be free, in their bhakti, in their expression of bhakti. And this is how it comes to this point. And they also say, we are not fanatical, it's just the pure expression of our bhakti. Why should we follow all these regulations? So this is how it works. And then you have all these Babajis with some beautiful widows and many, many wives and children like that. So, and they live at Radhakunda. So this is what Vaishnavism came to in the 19th century. So, and unfortunately, for some reason, this story also got pretty widespread in ISKCON. And I know one thing, after Brijavasi Prabhu wrote this article, maybe you know this spiritual master from the post-Soviet countries, Russian-speaking spiritual master, Bhakti Goswami Maharaj. Maybe heard or seen him. So he read this article because they are friends with Brijavasi Prabhu and he respects him very much. And he read this article and he wrote a letter to Brijavasi Prabhu. That thank you very much for this extensive research. I'm so grateful to you that you've made it. It's very important and everything like that. But in his previous lectures, unfortunately, just so happened that Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj also retold this story with the hardcore version because it was very widespread. And disciples of Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj started writing threatening emails to Brijavasi Prabhu, like, what are you saying there? Who do you think you are? Our Guru Maharaja told this story like that. Why are you saying that it's not true, So their Guru Maharaja wrote to Brijavasi Prabhu, thank you very much, I'm so grateful to you, finally you've made this research, But the disciples, being simple people, so to say, they are writing, oh, who do you think you are? You think you're the smartest, the Shastra better than others, and things like that. So the Shastra is really important. Otherwise, you see, we may all sometimes make mistakes, but this is why we have Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And if you take out one from this equation, it will not work. Our Sampradaya will fall down. If there are, for example, there is some very popular leader, yes? And I see sometimes, and even if he says something that might be considered not very authoritative by someone, or may have some ambiguous meaning, unclear, or seemingly having two meanings. Like, for example, there is some statement, and it could be, treated like this, and it could be treated like that. You don't know for sure what it means. So, and they made some of our highly respected spiritual leaders, sometimes they may make some statements, maybe even involuntarily, and some comments are needed. But some people may interpret that as follow your heart, or as some Mayavada or something like that, and they may start following that. And if it's some leader of high caliber, devotees even sometimes I heard like this. Oh, this devotee said that, and then these devotees they quote the same and they say, in the Shastra it says like this. And I tell him, okay, you just, several minutes ago you said that it was not the Shastra, it was that senior devotee who said that. And they say, oh, but it's none different from the Shastra. It's a very sentimental approach. Be careful with that. We should, of course, respect our senior devotees and our spiritual masters very much. But you should also have your own brain, so to say, and you should always analyze and compare. First, you should compare to what Srila Prabhupada said, and then to the Shastra, of course. Without it, the process doesn't work, you know. And we remember such big leaders like Harikesha Swami Maharaj also. You know, at his time, like in the 90s, he was like God for many. He was called Bhaktipad. Yes, I think he was called Vishnupad. Yes, some other elevated devotee who also fell down later, he was called Bhaktipad. Maybe Kirtanananda Swami, he was called Bhaktipad. Yeah, I think he was called Bhaktipad, and Vishnupad, Harikesha Swami was called Vishnupad. Can you imagine this? Now we don't have these names for our spiritual masters after those experiences. So you should be very careful, because when such great leaders appear, very charismatic leaders, whatever they say, devotees will follow. Especially when devotees are fully engaged in service and they don't have time for any reading, it's also very dangerous. So it's a controversy. Yes, we have to be fully engaged in service all the time, try our best, but at the same time we should somehow or other have this blocking time, to use this modern term, blocking time for reading and chanting, of course. So, again, just to emphasize this point, that philosophy is extremely important, because later, if you have some improper philosophy in your head, you may come to a different point sometime in the future. And by the way, philosophy is not something that we read once and we remember. No, it has to be repeated all the time. Huh? Philosophy is not something that we read once and then remember. You know, some basics you may remember, but then some porridge may come out of these basic statements in your head, and you will interpret it like this, like that. But when you listen to Srila Prabhupada, when you read his books, it always becomes very clear, structured and clear, and you should do that always. Always, always, always. There will never be a time where you shouldn't do this. Even it is given also as a very, as the prime example of this, our Goswamis. They followed everything very strictly. They were on the highest level, but they were not doing things like that, you know, following the heart, you know, okay, I will not do this because I'm already at a high level. No. If you are really at a high level, and especially in an organization like ISKCON, a preaching organization where we have devotees at various levels, if you are really at a high level, you will follow even more strictly just to show the example. Because this is the mission of Srila Prabhupada, this is the mission of our Acharyas, this is the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to spread the movement. And you cannot spread the movement without showing the real example. You see? Because if our leaders show some softish examples, then of course beginning devotees, neophyte devotees, they will just follow that and they will relax very quickly. And in, I don't know, in 5-10 years, maybe 50 years, we will have some kind of, new age ISKCON, okay, I don't know, like, let's do some yoga in front of the deities with our asses up in front of the deities and things like that, and whatever, so many things. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Follow your heart. This is a very dangerous statement. Never believe that. Never trust that. So follow the Shastra, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. That's what we have to follow. And yeah. And to finalize all this, I would like to mention the 10th offense that we mentioned in the morning today, to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy name and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. So such things as getting attached to a calf or to a phone, they are also material attachments. So we always have to remember about this, listen to our guru, sadhu, read the shastra, listen to the shastra from our gurus and sadhus, and be really careful all the time, and study the philosophy very carefully all the time. Yeah, thank you very much. So if you have any comments, questions, rotten potatoes and tomatoes, question.
Thank you for those two questions. One is, you mentioned that it's really important to be independently thoughtful, to develop his own discrimination and not just, to blindly accept anything any charismatic leader may say, but to do our own research and at the same time know the Shastras well. And then there's Srila Prabhupada emphasized it very much. You need to be independently thoughtful. And then I can see that critical thinking in this time, at least here in Germany, is not a very common good, so to say. Usually you get that when you study some sciences, but not just learning the hard sciences like biology or something, but if you study philosophy or theology, this kind of things. So it seems to be like a big art to develop that independent thoughtfulness. And additionally, because the mind is so subtle and is inside, is the inner sense, we think, we feel, we will, and we identify with it very often. So how can we dissociate ourselves from being the mind, not trusting the mind, following it blindly, and to find the proper approach to this independent thoughtfulness.
This is the first question, or the first? Okay. So yeah, it's an extremely important question, of course. How to be independently thoughtful, as I mentioned in my talk, because we have to analyze all the time. This devotee said that. Let's analyze. What Srila Prabhupada said and Shastra. Maybe he's not right. So, so how to be independently thoughtful, and at the same time not to come to a point of some kind of modern fashion critical thinking, where you, with this critical thinking, you may get away with everything. Actually, you may critically think about any statement, anything that is told to you. You may critically think about it and develop your own way, actually. So it's very dangerous. This critical thinking and independent thoughtfulness, they are important, but how to find a balance, so to say, yes? It's a tough thing, and I would even say, from my observations, that not everybody, fortunately or unfortunately, can do it. And if a devotee sees that to a large degree it's very difficult for him to critically analyze everything, he should find someone, some senior devotee, a real guru preferably, who really follows Srila Prabhupada, and find shelter at the lotus feet of such a devotee, and to consult this devotee. And preferably, of course, it's very important, because this is the problem that we have in the post-Soviet countries. Better not to mention the Soviet, because it's very dangerous, the Soviet. So Russian-speaking countries, let's say. In the Russian-speaking countries, we have this problem that gurus are not accessible. Like here, Kanama Swami Maharaj came, other Maharajas came. You can talk to them. You can ask questions. In our lands, it's like guru is very far. There are some devotees surrounding him, like Srila Prabhupada, in the later years of ISKCON development. He was not accessible. Devotees from the first years, they say, oh, Srila Prabhupada sat with us. There were 5 of us at the lecture, and we were listening to him, and we were asking questions. Yes, later on, not possible. You go to some morning walk with Srila Prabhupada, that's when you have already some great achievements in book distribution. So, that is another problem. You should find someone accessible. Really, some senior devotee who is expert in the Shastra, who is not, also you have to understand this devotee, how he follows everything, what is his mood. Maybe he's just very critical to the ISKCON leadership. He says, oh, all of them are like not right, I am the only right person. So you have to be also careful not to fall into that. So it's an art. It's like choosing a guru. You know, you should find someone who you could consult. For instance, I myself, I was lucky, to say the least, enough to find Brijabasi Prabhu for myself. It was like I was always consulting him when I had some difficult questions concerning the Shastra. Because many senior devotees, they may also not have this nature of deep philosophical studies. And if you ask them, I had such experience myself, this is why I'm saying that. If you ask them some questions, they may answer you. First of all, they don't want to lose their face. They don't want to say that they don't know, because they have a high position. And the second point, they answer you in a way which is kind of, it's not that they are bad, they have some good motivation, they want to develop the organization, yes? But they answer you from the point of view of the organization, from the point of view of how they see you in this organization, how they want to kind of, maybe not use you, but how they want you to serve in this organization. And they will answer from that point, not from the point of like directly speaking to you as a seeker of spiritual knowledge, like directly from the Shastra. They may answer from the point of view of their organization. So it's better to find devotees who can answer you from the point of view of pure Guru Sadhu Shastra, without this organizational flavor, so to say. And it's extremely difficult to find such devotees, I know. So, but to develop your own critical thinking and independent thoughtfulness, you should try that. But please never, never, never give it the highest point in your hierarchy, in your inner hierarchy. Like, my critical thinking is higher than all these devotees. And if I think like that, that's the highest point. No. You can do this to a certain extent, some independent thoughtfulness, some critical thinking, and then you find some controversial points, some points that are disturbing you. With these points, you have to come to this expert person, to your guru, preferably, of course, who can explain all this. So all this independent thoughtfulness should, it's not our actually, but anyway, in our Vedic approach, in our Vaishnava approach, it should come from above. It should come from our gurus, from our seniors, from more expert devotees. They should structure your independent thoughtfulness and your critical thinking. But these, like in the modern universities, they just develop this critical thinking, and their mind is the highest point, and they go and drink some beer and think about, oh, I know this ISKCON. Yeah, it's a sect, they do this and this and that. Okay, I know them. Okay, these Christians, yeah, I know, they do this and this and this, I know, of course. And they're like, what level do they have? You know, they drink their beer, they go to parties. So what is that? What level is that? But they think, because they made their critical thinker inside their head, they made the highest guru. It doesn't work like that. So somehow or other we have to be really careful and not to fall to our inner critical thinker who is higher and above everybody else. But at the same time, always compare. Always compare something. And I sometimes heard when devotees hear something even from their guru, and they say, oh my God, he said this, but it's controversial. And then we analyze what did he say, and there is a transcribation, of what he said. And I see that, and this is actually from these words that he said. It's only your mood that turned his words into what you think he said. It doesn't come from the words themselves. So you should clarify that. So very often it happens that we interpret with our mind, So you have to be very careful in all these difficult questions. So, and best if you find someone who is expert in this field. Again, preferably it should be your guru. So the one who is expert in this, it should be your guru. Yeah. Hare Krishna. I don't know about the time. Yeah. What do you think?
If this is okay, no, I don't want to see everyone else. So, we also mentioned how important it is to be very strict follower of devotional principles, rules and regulations and everything. And yet I also heard that on the higher platform of Bhakti and Bhagavatam platform, it can be an obstacle to follow the principles. And so I would like to understand that a little bit more, because also Lord Krishna, he says in one verse of Bhagavad Gita that he gives the principles by which to follow him, and then he says in last, and also in the, finally one also needs to be able to give up these principles, So I'm wondering how to reconcile these two. What verse do you mean? I have to find it. But there's one verse where Krishna is in one chapter he's explaining different things, how to do in devotional service, and then finally he says, and ultimately you have to give up these rules.
You mean from Bhagavad Gita, or? This famous verse at the end of Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman parityaja, or?
I need to find it. I'm not sure if in the second, third chapter is somewhere. Or maybe in the 12th chapter.
Okay. So I also don't remember. If it's not this, Sarva dharman parityaja, I don't remember that. But how to reconcile these two? Again, I'm not very expert to answer this level of a question, that at a Ragatmika platform you shouldn't follow the principles. I don't think it's you shouldn't. Oh, I don't think. I mean, again, I'm taking the example of our 6 Goswamis. They followed. And they were at the highest. So for me, they didn't even want to come to Jagannatha temple, Rupa Goswami, because he considered himself having a Muslim background. But sometimes our devotees, they want to, we want to get in. Why they're not letting us? But I remember about Rupa Goswami, and I think, well, why should I? Why should I? So I think when we come to this Ragatmika platform, when we really come to this Ragatmika platform, it will be very clear to us, maybe. At that point, maybe we will see Krishna directly already, and we will know if we should follow something or not follow something. But I think anyway, you are going to follow regulative principles. It's not that at some point you think, okay, let me have my beer at last, I can do it. No, it's maybe you will not follow all these. Maybe you will not worship at the temple. Maybe. But you will, of course, automatically follow all the basic principles that we have for us as neophytes right now. So it's a very, very high level. And again, I take the example of 6 Goswamis who were on the highest platform, and they followed very strictly. And remember, unfortunately, I don't remember who it was, Sanatana Goswami, when he was very old, and 1,000 dandavats a day or something, and many, many, many rounds, and even I say, oh my God, I don't remember clearly. Who remembers? Like Krishna came to him and told him that you shouldn't do this anymore. Your body is too old for this. It was some of our acharyas. Krishna Das Kaviraj. Yeah, maybe. Recently I heard this story, but I don't remember clearly. But this is the point. Up until the very last moment, he was following this very strict austerity. And he was on a very high level. He already saw pastimes of Krishna. So directly he was told that you shouldn't do this anymore because your body is too old. Maybe at that time we may stop following something. When we are directly told, maybe our guru will appear in our dream and he will tell us, okay, you are too old for this. Please don't do it. So not like we decided ourselves. Maybe. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.